Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Ben here, and welcome to my Game of the Year celebration. Today, I'm talking about my favorite games of 2023. This time last year, I just hit the 100 subscriber count, and as of right now, I'm sitting at just over 400, so we basically quadrupled that number. If we do that again this year, maybe we can hit 1,000 by the time we do my next Game of the Year video. Just two personal updates real quick. Ellie turned 5 this past year, and we finally played our first co-op game, Super Mario Wonder. We're still playing through the game right now, but it's pretty damn surreal that I'm playing a co-op game with my own kid. I always dreamed of playing co-op with my kid, but now that it's here, it's pretty damn cool. With that said, she will not stop asking to take the controller while I'm playing a game. The award for the two games she stole the controller from me the most this year is Spider-Man 2 and Atlas Fallen. She loved the swinging Spider-Man and actually really loved the gliding mechanic on the sand in Atlas Fallen. She had a good time with that. Sebastian is only 1 now, so he isn't even close to playing video games yet, but he is starting to carry around my controllers, which is pretty cute. I will say, this year I wasn't able to complete a couple of the bigger, more popular games. I put about 30 hours into Baldur's Gate 3, which seems pretty awesome so far, but I don't even feel like I've scratched the surface with that game, so that won't be on this list. And Tears of the Kingdom, I've played about 15 hours, so same situation there. And before I talk about my top 10 games, I want to throw out 2 honorable mentions real quick. The first honorable mention this year and my runner-up indie game of the year is a Lovecraftian horror fishing game called Dredge. In Dredge, you are put in the boots of a nameless fisherman, where you will be reeling in fish, selling them to markets, and exploring mysterious, dangerous locations. Throughout the game, you'll be looking for 5 special relics for a local man that has a mysterious hidden agenda. Each time you bring back a relic, you'll be rewarded with a new ship ability, which allows you to progress further and faster into the game. There are so many aspects of this game that I loved. The puzzle aspects to the inventory, where you're trying to always figure out how to fit more fish in your boat, or the wide variety of fish that you can just catch and collect in your journals. But my favorite part of the game is probably the night and day mechanics. This game to me felt like if you took Darkwood and put it in the ocean. Definitely not as scary as Darkwood. It's more of like just a spooky game, but it gave me that same I gotta get all my stuff and get home before dark feeling. It's also really cool that this game is developed by only 4 people. This is Black Salt Games' debut video game. Don't be left out to sea on this one, guys. Reel in a copy of Dredge before the sun goes down.
Follow my lead.
My second honorable mention this year is Hogwarts Legacy. I really wanted to include this game in the top 10, but I just ended up having way too many games to include it. But honestly, this might be the greatest honorable mention in the history of video games. If I was a huge Harry Potter fan, this game would be number 1 by a long shot. Out of all the games this year, this has got to be the most creative one. I was always in awe when it came to the animated environments, whether it was the hundreds of animated paintings, the statues that would move and talk, and even fight with each other. Or the musical instruments that would put on a show all by themselves. This game just makes you happy, man. I gotta give it up to the gameplay too. This game has some awesome combat. You have tons of spells that you can create combos with, and they're also used for a variety of puzzles throughout the game. I was always pulling enemies towards me and flinging them across the map. And on top of that, the mystical art finishers were so badass. My 2 favorites were when you would slam the enemies into the ground, or when you would shrink the giant spiders and squash them under your foot. And don't even get me started on the soundtrack. It's probably up there for my favorite soundtrack of the year. Before playing this game, I probably would have scoffed at being a Harry Potter fan, but now I'm really wanting to go watch all the movies. If I was a longtime fan, I can't even imagine how mind-blowing this game would be. Now, with all that said and done, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 games of 2023. Starting off this year's list at number 10 is one of the first games I played this year, Dead Space Remake. This really is a game that came so close to perfection, with its amazing updates to the gameplay and gun abilities. I mean, some of these secondary attacks you pull off are so cool. Also, the updated level design changes in the remake and the new chapter transitions add so much to the game. I love the ability to re-explore areas and take the tram back and forth. It was also a welcome addition to hear Isaac talk now, and you get a lot more backstory with his girlfriend Nicole. Also, the hunter now being a constant lurking threat was a welcome addition. But with that said, the reason this game is at number 10 is primarily because I wasn't a huge fan of the character changes to Kendra Daniels and Zach Hammond. I go into full detail on this in my hour-long review if you're interested. Any other year, this probably would have been in my top 3 games of the year. But in a legendary year like 2023, it makes its marker at number 10.
Honey, you're back! What took you so long? I was so lonely.
Uh-huh. Like, I need to go through a laser wall, preferably alive.
What a silly idea, honey. That's awful risky. You should stay with me instead. I'll do whatever you want.
Guys, I've never played a game where I was more in awe, more turned on, and more confused in my life. This game constantly had me saying, what the hell is happening right now, so many times. And I say that in the best possible way.
So brutal. I'm shaking. Squirt your polymer inside me.
In this game, you play as Sergei Nechayev, otherwise known as P3, and the game takes place during an alternate history version of the Soviet Union after World War II. After a virus has wiped out a big chunk of the population, well, in response, they created robots to make up for the worker shortage. Well, predictably, that doesn't last long and everything goes to shit. So throughout the game, you're trying to unravel the mystery of how the robot uprising started and who is to blame. This game is absolutely the best looking game of the year. I can't believe it didn't even get nominated for Best Art Direction or anything related to visuals, because my god, this game looks amazing. The reflections off every single surface and the textures on those surfaces is literally next level. It's also got one of the best cutscenes of the year. If you've played the game, you'll know what I'm talking about. The quality of everything in this game felt so high. They had this animated cartoon playing in each of the save rooms. They even created animated videos for each of your powers. And they even had custom death animations for every single possible way you could die. It was amazing. Each time I died, it would show a new death animation, and it always matched the way you just died. That really is some extreme attention to detail right there. I also wanted to mention the addictive looting mechanic in this game. It would just let you vacuum everything with your glove. It was so cool. This game definitely scratched my itch for another BioShock or Wolfenstein game. If you like those type of games, Atomic Heart will be right up your alley. Definitely give this game a chance, guys. It might just steal your atomic heart.
Off we go.
Ugh, this tunnel's messed up. It's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Dead Island 2 takes place in a zombie apocalypse Los Angeles known as Hell A, where the city has been put into total lockdown and you and other survivors are trapped inside. After years of delays and studio changes, no one could have expected this game to be as good as it was. Dead Island 2's marketing and trailers were amazing, but I didn't expect this game to be one of my favorite games of the year. You have the choice to play as one of 6 zombie killers, and each of them will have their own unique dialogue and abilities. So the replay value here is pretty high. I tried out all of them, and I'd say I'd still definitely prefer Jacob as a character. He definitely seems like he has the best voice acting, which is why he probably ended up being on the cover of the game. If I had to nominate this game for an award, it would be for the gameplay of the year. The game has this insanely addictive modding mechanic. Depending on the mod you apply to a weapon, the weapon will not only perform differently, but the look of the weapon changes drastically as well. The detail they put into each weapon and designs and models are insane. For example, if you put a fire mod to a weapon, it adds pipes and flamethrowers all over the weapon. Or if you add an impactor mod, which became my favorite, it'll allow you to hit enemies around much harder with each hit. And the visual of the weapon will beef it up with a reinforced steel look. And that's just 2 examples. There's electricity, poison, and a bleeding mod, which adds a bunch of spikes all over the weapon. And all these mods are available to apply to almost every weapon in the game. So the amount of customization is just ridiculous. I really can't compliment this system enough. I also want to shout out the amount of enemy variety in the game. There are so many memorable zombies that you fight. If you enjoy games like the first couple Dead Risings, or just love zombie games with a bit of comic relief, Dead Island 2 is one of the best zombie games of the past few years. It's almost here. Been waiting so long. And we're a minute and a half away. 45 seconds. Oh shit. Let's get close on that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fuck! It says play game! I'm so nervous. I need this game to be good. Guys, I need it to be good so bad. Riding its way into the number 7 spot this year is by far my biggest surprise of the countdown. A game that was destined to be my game of the year ever since it was announced. I have never been more excited for a game in my life. But Alan Wake 2 has went from my most anticipated game to my most disappointing game of the year. And you're probably asking, why am I disappointed? And if I was disappointed, why is it in the top 10 list? I'll just say this. I'm not saying the game is bad. I like a lot of aspects about it, and just the fact that Alan Wake 2 exists makes me really happy. But it is not the game I expected, and it definitely doesn't feel like a true sequel to the first Alan Wake. But I actually found myself missing a lot of the aspects of the original game, like the faster paced action gameplay. And the story structure, like the episodes, the cliffhangers at the end of each episode, and the previously on Alan Wake recaps are all just gone.
Previously on Alan Wake. Under the influence of the Dark Presence, I wrote a horror story that is coming true. Jagger had been my editor, making sure that the unfolding...
Alan Wake 2 seems more inspired by shows like True Detective and Twin Peaks: The Return than it is the first Alan Wake, and that makes me so sad, man. But I wanted to see the original formula given a second chance after it was criminally overlooked back in 2010. I just don't think this game stayed true to the source material. We got massive downgrades to things like Mr. Scratch, who has no personality now. He's just a growling monster.
There must be a way to slow him down.
What are you gonna do about it? The sun's never coming up now. I can keep this up forever. Show yourself! Whatever you say, buddy!
I do think Alan Wake 2's story is still top-notch, and I really enjoyed the New Game Plus ending, but the story can only carry a game so far, and I hope if we get a third game, it just becomes closer to the original. And that's all I'll say about it for now. Earlier this year in my Dead Space video, I talked about how the original Dead Space was the scariest game I ever played. Well, that didn't last long, because Amnesia the Bunker has taken that crown and is going to haunt me in my sleep for a very long time. And it all starts with the setting. Here being inside a military bunker. After a brief section above ground during a battle, you become injured and knocked out. Next thing you know, you've woken up much later and can't remember how you've gotten there. And now you've got to try and escape back out. So throughout the game, you need to sneak around and solve puzzles and unlock different sections of the bunker to proceed. But it's not going to be easy because you're not alone in this bunker. There's something lurking in the walls. On top of that, the monster is designed to be as random as possible, so you never really can predict what he'll do. There were some moments in the game where I'd try and run from the monster back to the safe room, and I couldn't lock the door in time, and he kicked it open. It was easily one of the scariest moments I had in the game. And I gotta say, I think this game should have won Audio Design of the Year. The monster sounds and the audio of him in the walls are so well done and creepy. So if you think you're brave enough to escape the bunker, I think you should. It's a game I'll never forget.
Marco, why today? I'm so getting fired.
Spider-Man 2 has easily the fastest, most fluid open-world traversal ever. I don't even think anything comes close. When you combine the wingsuit and the web sling ability, you can fly across the city so fast. They also litter the world with these airstreams, which allows you to keep up your momentum too. In Spider-Man 2, you get to play as both Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and both of them are protecting the city now. The way they implemented the symbiote suit into the story and how it affects Peter's relationship with people is really well done and tense.
Let's go, man, before he gets too far.
No. He's mine.
You sure? He's got big teeth.
So do I.
He's not normally like that, right?
No. He's never like that.
And that's what I liked about this story. I really liked how dark the game would get at times. It's kind of funny, my wife and daughter started watching me one night about halfway through the game, and after that, it basically became a family playthrough. Every time I played the game, they would stop what they were doing just to watch. The game also has two of the best supervillains of any game, and they're both in one game. It's crazy. The game basically doubles the content of the original game. Not only do you get two amazing villains, you get to play as two separate characters who get their own separate skill trees as well. So if you're looking to play a game with an amazing story and some of the funnest gameplay of the year, I can't recommend this game enough.
Have any of you ever read an ancient writer called Ian Banks? I guess not. He postulated the concept of the outside context problem. That's when a society encounters something so advanced, so different, that they simply could not have conceived of it. That's what this is. This whole place is one giant outside context problem. And we're headed right into it.
Coming in at number 4 is one of the most unique games I've ever played. Talos Principle 2 takes place in a future dystopian world where humans have been dead for hundreds of years, and AI robots have taken up the mantle. I've had lots of favorite puzzle games over the years, but this game is easily my favorite now. And going forward, this game has set a new bar for how deep a puzzle game can be. Puzzles are not only some of the most intricate of any puzzle game I've ever played, but the story surrounding the game is one of the best I've experienced in a long time. This game really gets you thinking, man. It had me constantly pondering the meaning of life. And I can't say a game has done that to me probably ever. These robots feel very human, and at times you forget they aren't human. They think and act like us, and they definitely don't hate humans. A lot of the time, they idolize the humans of the past. And I really love the aspect of the game where modern day everyday items, like toilets and soccer balls, are basically artifacts in this world of Talos Principle. It reminded me of the Horizon games when you discover like old locations of the old societies. And probably my favorite part of this game is the world design. I haven't had my mouth open saying, whoa, for a game this much in a long time. Some of the environments feel like they would have taken years to dream up, especially the island with the giant statues in it. And the way each island connects back to the megastructure is always really satisfying. Each time you complete an island of puzzles, a new laser would shoot across the horizon. It always looks so badass. So if you love puzzle games and want to experience one of the best stories out there, definitely check out Talos Principle 2. Coming in at number 3, and the game I put the most hours into this year, Final Fantasy XVI. In this game, you play as Clive Rosfield, who's the Prince of Rosaria and the protector and shield of his younger brother Joshua, who's inherited the power of the Phoenix and must be protected at all cost. Clive is set forth on an epic adventure for revenge and redemption for his kingdom. The thing I love the most about Final Fantasy XVI is its story. The pace it unravels to the player and the presentation throughout is amazing. Each time the next main mission brief would happen, and they'd play that animated world map and epic music, I was always excited to see what was going to happen next. The game has lots of drama between nations who are fighting over the remaining magic crystals that have become a rarity after the event known as the Blight. Each nation will basically have their own superhero. In this game, they're called icons, some of them being friendly to you and others not so much. The fights you have with these icons are some of the coolest moments I've played all year. Each time you go into one of the fights, you're always wondering, how the hell am I going to defeat this thing? So it's a good thing you're playing as Clive Rosfield, who has the unique ability to wield the power of multiple icons, while the others can only wield their one set of abilities. So once you've acquired and unlocked multiple god abilities, you literally start to feel unstoppable. Now, if I had one critique about the game and why it's not higher on the list, is that the best abilities you acquire are about halfway through the game, and it doesn't get much better after that. Also, the last final boss was pretty annoying and talked way too much, but other than that, the first 3/4 of this game had me thinking this might actually be my number one game this year. The story, the visuals, and the combat were all top notch.
Your sword, like Sasia, swears to protect this tower.
I've always thought to myself, there is probably no one that can replicate, or even will replicate, the Souls-like formula like From Software does. But in 2023, Lies of P is the first Souls-like game to actually do it. They not only match From Software's quality, they've topped it in a lot of ways. Lies of P takes place in a city known as Krot, where the invention of puppets has brought on a new revolution. But something has caused the puppets to turn hostile, and all the humans have either been killed or have retreated into their homes. You begin the game where you awaken as Pinocchio, and you must find your way to the nearest safe haven, which is Hotel Krot. But you're gonna need to go through a lot of hostile puppets. As you play through the campaign, you'll run into situations where you can tell the truth or lie, and each decision will affect the outcome of the story.
That's right, kind one.
When it comes to the combat, the game is your typical Souls-like game where you play through a level, if you die you lose your ergo, which are basically the equivalent of souls. At first, the combat in Lies of P felt a bit stiff, but I think that was actually intentional with the character being a robotic puppet. But once you play for a couple hours, the combat becomes addictive and amazing. I also love the secondary abilities for each weapon, and the prosthetic arm that gives you cool attacks. My favorites ended up being the one that shoots the sticky grenades, or the puppet string, which allows you to pull enemies towards you, or pull yourself to the enemy and do an air attack. I've seen a lot of people online say that this is their first Souls-like game and they've really enjoyed it. So if you've never played one, the story, world, and gameplay makes Lies of P one of the best games you could start with.
Hey!
Coming in at number 1, and my favorite game of 2023, is Resident Evil 4, the remake. The whole time I was playing this game, I was consistently blown away. It didn't once make me wonder, why the hell did they update this from the original? It didn't take hours to warm up. I thought the whole game from start to finish was almost flawless. The cutscenes are some of the best I've ever seen. The character models, some of the best I've ever seen. The visuals are some of the best I've ever seen. It's got, in my opinion, some of the best gunplay and combat of any survival horror game ever. They've expanded the lore of the original game in so many good ways. They've given certain characters more screen time. Luis ended up going from a pretty cool character in the original game to possibly the best character in the game. They also made Sadler into a more intimidating character. He feels more like a Star Wars Emperor now, which is really cool. And the boss fight with him and Ada in separate ways is probably my favorite boss fight. And the merchant character in general just got a huge upgrade. And he'll even give you little side missions to complete. And I gotta shout out the Separate Ways DLC too. I think this story DLC could go down as one of the best add-ons for a game in a long time. It's basically an extra 6 to 8 hours of content, which is just as good as the main game, sometimes even better. I'd put it right up there with my all-time favorite DLCs. And that, my friends, is why Resident Evil 4 Remake is my favorite game of 2023. Thank you guys for watching, and if you guys did enjoy the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let's try and hit 1,000 subscribers this year. I think that'd be pretty awesome. And until next time, stay in the light, my friends. Later.
Don't think too hard, handsome. See you later.
Story of my life.